Operations. So today I'll be talking about quality, how to reach a quality maple syrup. So there are many details, many points I'll be addressing with you. So let's go on with it. Just a word about Center Acer. As I said, it's a Quebec-based research center. We are doing research and development. We also do analytical analysis, so we have a lab. And we do also technology transfer, which can be sometimes called extension. So like today we're doing, that's what I'm doing. So that's about the Center Acer. If we think about quality, quality is has many aspects about it. So can be safety can be a big aspect of the quality. So it's a really important aspect. Expectation for consumer expectation also is part of the quality of maple products. Production techniques, so you want to have the best techniques to handle them correctly to have quality products. Of course, profit is important for you. It's part of the quality, so if you have quality products, you will make more profit. And law and regulation and law is also an aspect that's really important to have the quality of maple product to consider. I'll be talking about today commercial standards, maple syrup. How do we reach quality by aiming at the best facilities and procedures? Use available tools for using best practices, and that will give you all the advantages of producing quality maple syrup. What's the role of maple producers in producing maple syrup quality? Maple producers are the center of the quality maple syrup. If there is quality maple syrup, it's because of you. You are at the center, at the base of this quality, so your role is really important. For this, you have to be aware of the safety issue of the product. You have to know regulations and laws. You also have to know about your products, its properties, and all that. You also need to be aware, be informed of the issues in the industry, the trends and all that. And for that, you have to keep training, get training session and all that like you're doing today. So all these will help producers control the quality of their product. So there's two aspects, the laws and regulations is really important in this aspect of quality. So here in Vermont, there's two levels of regulations. You have the federal regulation and then you have the state regulation. So I'm not a specialist of these questions, but I know there's many details about regulation and laws you have to deal with. This part of the quality is regulated by the law, but there's many other aspects of your operation, like the forest management and all that, the environment. So there's so many laws you have to to be aware of. But you know what? That's not all. You need also to be aware of international markets. So sometimes if you're not commercializing yourself outside the country, maybe someone else will do it for you. So if you're packing in bulk and you send it to a packer, this packer maybe will send the product overseas, and over there, markets, the regulation is different, and maybe you will be facing details, and you have to sometimes will come up to you, and you will be you have to be aware of these international markets and their regulation. Yeah, we talked about safety. Safety is all about hazard prevention. There's three types of hazard that can come up: biological, chemical, and physical. And on the other aspect of the quality is performance. That's about the properties of your product, like its taste, organoleptic properties, the amount of syrup you'll be producing, that's important for you, and also the nutritional aspects. Just for example, I put US grade maple syrup. And on the safety side, what we can see in these regulations that it says that it has to be safe for consumption and edible, and does not ferment. And on the other side, for performance, like there are many details they're telling you. For the control of solid content, you have limits you have to reach, like you have to be between 66 and 68.9% solid. 66 to 68.9 bricks. So this is the federal regulation, but I know that in Vermont it's different. The lower limit is higher. It's 66.9, I think. So those are details I just learned before I came here. But you know, these are you have to be aware of that. Has to be uniform in color. So another part of the performance. Good flavor and odor and intensity of flavor. That has to be maple. Have to have a maple taste. Free of flavors and odors as well, and has to be free of cloudiness, turbidity, sediment, and clean. Contains no deviants. So that's what this says in the federal regulation. So to be clean, you have a clean and safe production environment to reach that. You know how to prevent chemical, physical, biological hazard, as I said. You have to implement best cleaning and sanitation practices. That will be a thing I will talk later. Much attention will be paid to sanitation. And you have to frequently analyze the quality of your water you're using, or if you're using reverse osmosis water, you have also to analyze to use a good quality RO filtrate. To reach that, also you have to have a clean and safe production environment concerning the sugar bush buildings, the people working with you, the installation, all the equipment. All these will help have a quality maple syrup. I talked about hazard prevention, 3 categories: physical, so to assure that you don't have physical contamination of your product, you have to have well-maintained equipment, so the equipment are operating well. There's no deviance about that. You have to filter your sap and syrup also to prevent that. Chemical hazard comes from using chemical products, so the key here is to rinse properly if you're going to be using chemicals. So this is an important aspect of the production, though you don't want to have any chemical hazard or any chemical residue, so rinsing is very important. Another aspect is avoid contamination with allergens. So allergens come basically from the use of antifoamers or defoamers products, so you have to use those that are not allergen sources, especially for if you're organic certified production. So yeah, this is really important. And biological hazard comes from the microbial contamination, comes from the sap basically. So to prevent that, you have to pack your syrup at warm, hot temperature and fully fill the containers. Use good quality potable water to clean your equipment and have them clean and sanitize well as well. This is an example of what comes when you have microbial contamination. You see that the tubing here over here really hardly contaminated. Same thing here with the extractor. Those are maybe the worst example I can show you. I know you don't have this in your sugar bush, but sometimes you can see this, and this is really awful. You don't want to have this. You have to maintain your tubing and your equipment always clean, and to have the best sap, quality of sap, to make the best syrup. My recommendation for cleaning or sanitizing these tubing would be not to sanitize them. The solution is to take them out and put new ones. There's no way you can clean this correctly and have a good quality material over here. So be aware of that. This contamination will have a big impact on the quality of your product. What could be these impacts? Example here, you can produce, if you have a bad quality sap, sometimes it can lead to ropey syrup or sour syrup. Those ropey syrup, we have an example here. Sour syrup is syrup that is really acidic, that comes from the degradation, microbial degradation of the sap. So in this example here, you have the sap really cloudy looking sap. So this could tells you that there's a lot of microbes in this. A lot of people having fun in your sap over here. So be aware of that. These are, this one is an example of ropey syrup, and this one is regular, so no defect syrup. So if you put an instrument into your syrup and you lift it up, you should see this. Only drops going down, and if it has a filament like that, you're in presence of ropey syrup. And in Quebec, when they do the inspection of maple syrup, they do this test, and if the filament is longer than 10 centimeters, about 4 inches, the syrup is eliminated. It is downgraded. So be aware of that. What is the principle behind ropey syrup? The bacteria that are in maple sap, what they do, instead of metabolizing, degrading the sugar, they use this sugar as a reserve. They will build reserve. So they will add these sugar units one by one and make long filaments like that. These are called polysaccharides. That's why the syrup comes so viscous and ropey. So we see this in other products, but in maple syrup, that's something that we don't want to see. And for sour syrup, it's different. The sugars are used by the microbes to produce acids, lactic acid, acetic acid, so that these are called lactic acid bacteria. They're not welcome into maple sap, but sometimes during the season, as the season advances, these bacteria start to grow, and they go very high in concentration during the season. So this will damage the syrup at the end. So this is an example of data, the result that we obtained from a project that we did a few years ago in collaboration with the Association of Producers in Quebec. And in this test, we were interested in looking at the effect of storage of maple sap. So we did a test. We stored the sap at 4 degrees Celsius for 3 days, so it's quite cold. And we did it for 3 days. And we did it for 4 sugar bushes. So these results were obtained. These are average results from the 4 sugar bushes we analyzed. So we measured the content of lactic acid and acetic acid, and also follow the pH of the sap or concentrated sap during this test. So we collected samples in early season, mid-season, and late season. And this is the scale for concentration of acid, and this is a scale for the pH scale. So what we found out is that in the beginning of the season, in early season, and when we collect fresh sap, there's basically no concentration of these acids. So normally the maple syrup should not have this kind of acid, or at least very low concentration. So that's what we got in early season for fresh sap. And when we stored this sap, we saw a little increase, especially for acetic acid. So, but that didn't impact the quality of the syrup at this time. But as the season went on, like in mid-season, fresh sap still had this low concentration of acid. But for stored sap, we saw really an increase of these acids. So at this period, when we stored sap, it started to affect the taste of maple syrup. And at the end of the season, when we did the same test, fresh sap still had this low concentration of these acids, but the other set with stored sap, we reached really high concentration of both lactic and acetic acid. So these syrup were really impacted by the storage at that time. And the pH went the same way. So we were quite neutral at the beginning of the season, and as the season went on, mid-season started to lower, and at the end of the season, late season, we reached really acidic pH as well.
Can I ask a question?
Sorry.
Can I ask a question? Have you done anything with that, with the effects of agitation or oxygen?
Yeah, in this, no, it really settled. We didn't steer the sap at this moment. I know that steering will also create, we will stimulate the bacterial growth.
It will stimulate it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And this, we certainly could reach the same type of effect with when we steer the sap as well. Yep. So this is for sour syrup. So yeah, to go on, we see here an example of what's going on in your tubing. This is what we call biofilm. That's the bacteria that are sticking on the inside of the tubing that does that. This is an example of, well, it's an image that was taken with a really close look at the surface. We use an electron microscope here. So with eye magnification, we use 10,000 times magnification. So with your eye, you will not see necessarily the biofilm, but with this kind of equipment, we were able to see all the structure of these biofilm. Those bacteria are embedded into this matrix and protected by this environment. So it's really hard to remove and to neutralize this kind of biofilm. So these biofilm are contaminating the tubing lines. You have to sanitize them to neutralize or at least control these biofilm. And what we do, sometimes that's something that will help, is by using these sponge. These sponge, if you pass this sponge inside, you will do some effect on these biofilm and scraping off these biofilm from the surface, inside surface of these tubings. Especially if you have, I don't know if you have it, but some producers, large operation, maybe more, have underground tubing. So these kind of tubing sometimes are not really well leveled. They have sometimes slopes, the slopes not really well. And what's different for these type of underground lines is that they never froze. So freezing of these upper ground lines sometimes will help scrape off when you have ice and the flow start to run again. You will scrape off some of the biofilm and remove some bacteria from the tubing. But it's not the case when you use underground lines. So these sponges are really effective in keeping these underground lines clean. So people in Quebec, the producers who had this type of a problem with the underground lines, producing a lot of ruby syrup or sour syrup, really improve their quality by using these sponges. And when we talk about microbial contamination, well, the key to control it is to keep the storage time as short as possible and at the cold environment as cold as possible. So short time cold storage will help maintain the quality of the sap of the concentrate. Some producers are using bulk tanks that are refrigerated, so it will help. And but it's not that not everybody can afford that. But if you can keep in mind to have a short storage or you keep it cold as possible, it will help. Another thing that we have to keep in mind to control the microbial contamination of these inside the sugar house is to have the tubing easily taken apart and accessible for cleaning. Sometimes we see in Sugar Bush really surprising network of tubing and hard to take apart. So sometimes producers add new equipment over the years and they don't look too much at the way the piping is going on. So if you're able to have these valves and have tubings that are being taken apart, really rinse and drain, this will help maintain a good quality of your sanitation inside the sugar bush, inside the sugar house. You know what, we talked about sanitation. So when we talk about sanitation, what comes in our mind is using chemical sanitizer, but you know, hot water can do a really good job as well. If you're able to have hot water, especially as high as 170 degrees Fahrenheit, can be a little lower. It could do a really good job in reducing the number of microorganisms on the surface of your equipment. This will have the advantage of not using chemicals and the residues that can be a risk by using them. Chemical action is also interesting. We saw the biofilm, so biofilm is difficult to remove. So if you were able to have a mechanical action, it will help maintain the surface clean. If you're going to be using sanitation products, it's important that you follow the guidelines and use the right concentration and the right amount of time to let the product have an effect on your system. Yeah, when you're using chemical sanitizer or chemical cleaner, it's really important to rinse. We saw this earlier, but just an example here. You know, the issue of having chemical residue in your product is really important. We saw this in Quebec recently with people using chlorine-based sanitizer to sanitize the tubing system. So we found out that by doing this, there's a larger risk of having chlorate residue in your maple syrup at the end. The problem came from packers that sell the syrup overseas, especially in Europe. So in these countries, they have really low tolerance for this kind of residue. The regulation is very strict. The amount of residue of chlorates tolerate is 50 ppb So this is practically nothing. So they're really strict on that. So the containers that came back from these countries having too much of these residue. So it's a big cost for the industry. Just an example here, if you think, have in mind that your residue are low in the sap, for example, 50 ppb in your sap. If you think, if you consider concentration and evaporation step, the final residue in your syrup can go up 40 times. So you have 50 ppb in your sap will come to 200 ppb and more than 2,000 ppb in your final syrup. So that's way over the limit that is tolerated for the regulation. So so rinsing is really important. So I talked about bleach. So if you're using bleach for cleaning the tubing system, make sure you rinse it well. So it's difficult to rinse the tubing system in the sugar bush. So that's why it's not really recommended to use chlorine products for that. There's alternatives. As I talked to you about hot water, but there's also peracetic acid, another sanitizer that can be used. We don't have too much data on this product yet, but I know that it works well on equipment inside the sugar house. So maybe an alternative to chlorine products is by using hot water or peracetic acid. Another thing where microbial contamination will be involved in quality is the fermentation of maple syrup. I don't know if you have ever experienced fermentation, but that's something that will lower the quality of your product. And the key here is to have a control on the density of your product. So it has to be between 66.9 or higher than 66.9. So if you go lower than this, there's a risk of these bacteria to develop into the maple syrup and make a fermentation. At lower concentration, the sugars are not then the concentration of sugar is not high enough to prevent the microbial growth. So it's really important to respect that. You have to reach these Brix level, you have to use properly use the instrument and properly calibrate instruments to measure this density. Just a little bit deviance on these the instrument will make a difference. So we have to apply good practices for maple syrup packaging, like I said, hot packaging and completely filled containers. So the target interval for Brix is between 66.9 and 68.9. So lower than that, you have a great risk of fermentation, and higher than that, you will have a risk of crystallization. So these crystals will deposit at the bottom of your syrup and will affect its appearance. And you have to make sure you know to use and calibrate the instrument you're using. Hydrometers, hydrotherms, refractometers, they're all sensitive instrument, delicate, so you have to use them very carefully. If you're going to be using refractometers and you want to measure the Brix of warm syrup, hot syrup, you have to take a sample of this syrup and put it on an airtight container, put it on a bed of glass, of ice, to cool the sample before you do the sampling, because if you have too hot syrup, you will not be able to measure correctly the Brix of this sample. So there's other alternatives. Maybe you saw them in the store here. So this can help you reach a good measurement of your Brix, but be aware of the calibration of your equipment. To help in these, Acer is has produced some calibration solution for refractometers, because on a commercial basis there was no available solution like this for the maple producers. So we produced that and made them available for producers. The same thing goes for hydrometers or hydrotherms. Last year we came up with a new calibration solution for these instruments. The idea to prevent fermentation as well is to apply good practices when packing the syrup. If you look at the image here, you have the syrup coming out of the evaporator that goes into the filter press. Just by doing this, the temperature of the syrup will drop. So you need to use something to bring back to a higher temperature, the syrup to a higher temperature. So you have to use a heated tank where you will calibrate the syrup, check for its color and its bricks, and also to see if it's been filtered well before you pack the syrup, and make sure you pack it at a high temperature and fully fill the containers. I know that's not easy to reach, and producers are struggling to meet these steps, but you have to tend to have this kind of setup to improve the quality of the product. Yeah, make sure that equipment and technology are used and adapted for maple syrup production. They are operated correctly. One thing about not mentioned, but it's really important, is the use of anti-foaming or defoamer products to when you boil the syrup into the evaporator. You have to keep in mind to use it as minimal as possible. There's a risk by using too much that your syrup will have taste effects, or the concentration of the residue will be too high. You might not be aware of that, but there's certain issue about this in the industry right now. We're trying to look at it, but with the previous data that we collect a few years ago, when we did some surveys for producers, and we saw that the concentration of defoamers being used by the producers was way too high. The regulation says that this type of product is considered as processing aids. So processing aids normally, if you're using them in your production, should not have any residue in your product, should not be present at the end in the final product. So the way we use antifoamers right now is probably too high. So there's some improvement to reach over there. I know there's we saw some automatic defoamers dispenser being commercialized. This can be an improvement. If it has to be very well calibrated if you're using them, but otherwise you have to be really picky on your use of defoamers.
How do you test for that? Is it just a taste test, or is there?
There's a taste test in Quebec that is being done, but if the taste test is positive, it's because you have used way too much. But you can, even though you don't have the taste test positive, you still may be using too much as well. So the way the regulations see the use of antifoamers is basically the concentrations has to be less than 10 ppm, or maybe way less than that. And with the data we collect higher concentration of these estimated residues. So in Quebec, we'll be doing with the industry a research that will come up and try to raise this issue and come with some more data about that. To try to solve this issue, we came up with a prototype here with Santa Acer. We tested a way to not use antifoamers. So it's basic, it's quite simple as a system that we came up with. It's a tubing that we put over the pans of the evaporator. And in this tubing, we circulate cold water or cold RO filtrates. So this, when the foam comes in contact with this tubing, cold tubing, the foam will sit down and remain at a low level. So this is a way to control the foaming into the evaporator during the production. You see here on on the left side, the system was not in operation. We had the system in, but there was no water circulating in it. So the foam tended to go up and try to go over the pans. And on the right side over here, you see that the foam is really maintained at a low level when the system was on. And this was really effective. So you know, at the moment we opened the valve, the foam came down and stayed down at low level all the way, and we didn't need to use defoamers at all.
Is there a difference between the foam in the flue pan and the foam in the syrup pan? Or would that work in the syrup pan?
It worked in both type of pans, yeah. We had the system installed in the flue pan and back in front pans, and they work well in both pans. So, and we also compared the syrup produced by this system and compared to the syrup produced with antifoamers, and we didn't see so much difference. The syrup stayed the same, and the efficiency of the operation was quite the same as well. You saw a little bit of longer boiling period for the prototype system, but not as much, not so much. So it's basically comparable. But that was a small prototype system that we tried to have a first test on it.
Something in the study that comes up with the amount of square inches of that pipe you need based on the size of the pan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to figure out all these questions. So this year, our producer did a test. He built his own antifoamer system. He used it in his operation, that you see here, and it really worked well for him. He didn't use any defoamer at all during this when he used the system. He had some problem boiling, with the boiling, but yeah, there's still some improvement to be done. So maybe by adding some automatic sensors and all that, but basically, when you use it, he didn't use any defoamers. So I had some videos, but yeah, maybe I could show you the video. If I'm going into the other presentation, yeah. You see, boiling the front pans. Yeah, they had 3. So the foam level is really lower the system. And in the back pan as well. The foaming was really high, but it didn't go over. Yeah. So we're going to go further into these tests with the system. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have more data to show you in the few, in the next season maybe. We're gonna make some more tests and have it improve with the producers. Another aspect of the quality is the color of the maple syrup. So the color depends on how advanced the season is. So it has something to do with microbial contamination as well. So as the season goes on, as I said, bacterial growth is also increasing, and it will affect the color of your syrup. Filtering is also an important aspect to maintain, to control the color of your syrup. For example, here I have the same syrup, two samples, exact same color. One is filtered and the other is unfiltered. And the difference here is you can see the line here, this one you cannot. So if you look with your eyes, these syrup, they're both the same. They have the same color. But if you measure light transmittance, you will have much lower value for this unfiltered syrup, and it will affect your pay at the end. So there is training session that is available. I know in Vermont you have them. You have these sessions available to be for the producers, and in Quebec we're planning to have one as well for the producers in the next few months. To help producers reaching or measuring the color of the maple syrup, we have the color comparator that we offered. We also offered a color palette, something, just a plate here with different color grades that you can match with your syrup that will help you determine the color of your syrup. Off flavor is another aspect of the quality. We talk about sour syrup, but there's also other type of taste defects. Some taste defects comes from the tree itself, but some are coming from microbial contamination. But as I said, you have to maintain good sanitation for that, to prevent that. But for off-season flavor that comes from the tree itself, is different. It's difficult to predict and all that, like for the body taste or metabolic taste. These kind of tastes in the syrup will appear sometime late in the season. And a few years ago, a coloring test was developed by University of Montreal. And basically how it works is that you have liquid reagent into these bottles that you add to your sap. This will develop a color of your sample, and you match a color. If you reach the color that is correlated to the presence of body syrup, you count the amount of drop that you use to reach this color, and you go into a chart here. So the amount of drop that you use tells you the risk of producing a body syrup from the sap itself. We distribute these tests over the producers, and some large operation, sometimes they use that because they want to know if they have different slope, different location where they collect the sap. They maybe not necessarily mix them before they boil the syrup. So some management tool they have basically at the end of the season to manage the quality of their sap. So quality operation has had conformity with the law and regulation, performance. Quality of operation also refers to a healthy forest. So I'm not going to go into these details, but it's also have to be taken into consideration. But the key is to continuously improve. So using a logbook is not a bad idea. I don't know if you're using it, but organic producers are using them, but regular producers should also use them. It will help you keep track of your production, have traceability also for if a problem arises in the future. Get to know your product, keep learning, keep training, that's the key. And again, the products that we distribute, we have all these standards solution, but we also have some guides. So many of them are available. We have two others that are coming out this summer. One on the quality of maple products, and the other one on the proper use of proper installation and use of the sap collection system. So these are all available to producers, but unfortunately for you, they're all in French except one for the sanitation of the tubing system that is also in English. We also do training. We have a mini training session offered to producers, and they on any kind of subject. So maybe in the future we'll be able to have them in English as well, because we have new members at Santa Acer. We have the Association of Producers Association from Ontario and from New Brunswick as well. They recently reached the Santa Acer, and we also have the North American Maple Syrup Council that is member on the board of the Santa Acer. So maybe if the demand is there and on the future, we'll be able to have our material in English as well. We'll keep you informed of that. So I talk about membership, so we still accept new members. If you know someone, if you're interested yourself in becoming a member, just reach me, call me, and I'll give you the details about that. So basically, that's what I had to talk about today. So if you have any question, I'm available. So yeah, over here.
I think you touched on it, but my hearing is poor. I didn't quite follow. When you were talking about refrigeration of sap and concentration, or just sap?
You mean the...
When you're using the bulk tank, that slide.
This one?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is sap, concentrated sap.
it is concentrated sap.
Yeah.
And then, so could you go over that again a little bit?
Yeah, over here is data that we collect from a test we did a few years ago. We were interested in knowing the effect of storage of the maple concentrate. So we had fresh sap and stored the same sap. We stored it at 5 degrees Celsius for 3 days, and we compared it. We did this different period of the season, and we did this in 4 different sugar bush. Those are average numbers, average results.
And that's showing the pH level changing?
Yeah, if you're going to be doing storage, especially at the late season, there are many microbes in your sap, in this concentrate. This will affect the quality of the sap. It will produce higher concentration of lactic and acetic acid, and also have an impact on pH. pH will drop significantly. So,
Which is a problem.
which is a problem, will rise to sour syrup,
Yeah.
taste defects
Yeah.
related to that. Yeah, and it's basically because we did a lot of more analysis on this in this project. We went to all the microbiology, and we know the type of microbes that are responsible for that.
So what was the period of time that the sap was refrigerated?
3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
I took
Oh,
a
I
picture for you.
can see it. Thank you.
Any more
I
questions?
have a
Yes.
question. So, There's been a couple of seasons that at the end of the season, the syrup has become very light, but it has a very dark, sometimes off flavor, but it gets much lighter. Do you have any explanation for that? What's happening there?
The answer is no.
That's okay.
I have my
That's
thoughts,
okay.
but
Yeah.
we didn't do any experiments to
Yeah.
to analyze that.
Yeah,
But the few things that comes up in mind, but I don't want to tell you because
It's okay.
we didn't do any tests.
well, I think it's interesting, I've experienced it, but I happen to know there's been a lot of bulk syrup on the market that's light syrup, but it doesn't taste good or like.
Yeah,
good syrup.
I suppose they're really acidic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started, we buy sap, and I started 3 years ago adding a pH column to my collection spreadsheet.
Okay.
And it's very interesting because you definitely will see a big drop in the pH. You know, 1 full point, which is 10 times as
Oh my.
acidic,
So you're measuring pH of the sap?
of the sap.
Oh,
And as a marker for like, just another data point,
that's good.
is it okay for me to say we're done here?
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot on the line when you're buying people's syrup,
Mm.
sap rather. So analytically, I've, seen that there is a change in pH as that degradation
Yeah.
is occurring at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's a good way to be able to track the quality of your sap before you do the syrup.
Yeah, test everything else anyway, so why not test the pH?
Yeah.
And then you have the data to be able to say,
Yeah,
look, there's a big change.
Something really easy to do and.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Is the color eye test available now to buy?
Yep.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, last time when we were in Quebec, they said it was not quite ready.
Yeah, it's been offered last year to some producers, but
Yeah.
this year we went on a large scale.
And you can buy it on the website?
Yes, you can have it on the website.
Okay, great. I've been waiting for that.
Website, yes, it will be available in a short period
Okay,
on the website.
great,
Mm.
thank you.
Any more questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.